Computer. Whoa, already we're going. Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning. Today is July
Sixth.
6th, 2025. We just celebrated the 4th of July
That's right.
weekend.
And all is well and everybody's happy.
We had a wonderful time enjoying friends. It was nice to have some days off to enjoy
It's
friends.
nice to have friends.
It's nice to have
I'm
friends. It
struck with how
is.
many people at our age, 40, uh, have lost many of their friends, and don't
Yeah.
have friends.
Well, we have lost some
Yeah,
of
and
our
we've
friends.
lost some too. And we just find a lot of our young friends are dying. It shouldn't happen.
Making their transition.
That's right.
They are
Transition.
transitioning. They are
Yeah.
not dying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how we use words differently. Uh, not long ago, my sister committed suicide, which was really not a nice thing. And somebody said, "What happened?" I said, "My sister killed herself." Oh, she committed suicide, and that was interesting. Committed suicide has such a softer feel to it than she killed herself, and and for me, being her brother, it was murder. For her, it was committing suicide. And how we pay attention to the words and how we use them says a lot about what we think and where we're going to go with it. So anyway,
And
we're off to a
yeah,
good
this
start.
has nothing to do with our topic.
No, we'll edit that part out, but right.
Although I just would like to say she was in a great deal of
Oh, she
physical
was.
pain for a long time. And what I believe about that is that those people transition to the same place we do.
Right.
And, there may be different levels and different, but it's not what I learned as a child that, oh, then they go to hell.
Yeah.
We don't believe in hell. We don't believe anybody goes there.
Mm.
And that was made up to scare people.
Well, and I want to make the transition is that when people not only are unable to have an ordinary life, but feel that their life has no value at all, it's very difficult to get to ordinary and to get to what we're going to talk about today, which is extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
And the truth is that some of us who are living the most extraordinary lives are going to have some extraordinary pain too. We're going to have
Mhm.
some extraordinary, it seems unreasonable suffering. And I know some of the members of our center have been through, as we have, this can't happen. It's happening. And then on top of that, something else will happen within 2 weeks. My father used to say, well, things happen bad that are in threes. And I thought that's not true. And but I think after the first one, you start counting. It isn't that they happen in threes. It's just now you're preoccupied with numbers. So
So Bob is was talking to me about starting a new project for himself with his art and his profession, and it included my participation. And at first, I was not enthusiastic because
she's being very gentle with those words.
I kept thinking, I'm not sure I know how to do all this on the computer and social media and all this that would be necessary. And it was just like, I'm not excited about this. Although I would be excited for him if it worked, if it was successful. And so we had to really look at that and what was my lack of enthusiasm and what would be the difference between having an ordinary attempt to at a new project or self-expression or being totally unenthusiastic about it or ordinary to extraordinary. And the difference is all attitude. The difference is what you can do when you know you have the help of the divine
Hmm,
or when you know it's not all up to you.
that's a nice transition. Are you like a minister? That was that was elegant, didn't it?
It is not all up to you. And one of the most important things for going from ordinary to extraordinary is to have enthusiasm. And I love this word because it literally means in God. In theos
Oh,
is the origin of that word, enthusiasm. So when you're excited about a project or something new or something old, if you can have enthusiasm, if you have the energy of God working with you and for you. And so it brought me right to something that I like to do occasionally with our talks too, which is to talk about affirmative prayer. Now, when I learned this, and that was about 50 years ago, I really had a lot I needed to pray for. I was really praying for a lot, and I was yeah, had some unhappiness in my life, some sickness with my children, and I felt a little desperate. And I learned this way of praying that was so empowering. We didn't even call it praying. They called it spiritual mind treatment. So it was a treatment that you were doing with your mind, because prayer often has the implication of begging and pleading. That's what I had done all my life. Dear God, please,
I'll be good.
if you could, if you would you please help me with this painful situation? And I never had any positive results from doing that, but it was the only thing I had ever learned. And so when I learned this affirmative treatment thing, I started having wonderful results. And it was miraculous. It was so exciting. And it was positive, and it really was extraordinary. We had improved health in the family. We had a much improved house that was something that I desired and focused on, and it unfolded within about 9 months, which was pretty incredible.
That's how long pregnancies take.
Yeah.
When you're
And
pregnant
so-
with an idea and you nurture it, you can deliver it.
and that was very exciting to know that uh, if you have a strong desire for something, instead of hoping and wishing and begging and pleading, if you could affirm that there is a power greater than you are that you can use. And that's basically our science of mind teaching, that there is a power. The power is God's, and it's neither male nor female. It is an energy, a creative energy that is always creating. So it's always creating. And guess what it's creating for you? It's creating what is on your mind, what you're thinking about. How could it create anything else for you? You know? So if you're sad and low, it may be even creating more sadness and lowness in your life, because that's what you're focusing on and thinking on.
And I think this might be a good time to mention that what some people do when they get involved in our teaching or with teachings like this is that they will carefully sort every word that they use so they don't use a bad one. They don't use one that has a negative implication. They don't say anything about a condition that they may be dying from because they're afraid that it'll make it worse. And what I'm going to suggest
A
is
little
that
louder.
I'm sorry,
You need to speak a little louder.
I'm they okay. And so what I'm going to suggest is that our thinking is like a soup. We create this soup, and every thought goes into the soup. Some of the thoughts have a lot of spice, some of them have some sugar, some of them have bitterness. There's all kinds of stuff going into the soup. And rather than monitoring every thought you have and saying, I can't have that one, know that it's in the soup that's making up the you that is creating, and it all has usefulness. But if the tendency is towards having the soup have the kind of taste that you would like, that tendency will become strong enough to be realized in your daily living. And so I want to caution people when they are so very, very careful with every word that they're afraid, they become afraid of the words. They become afraid of their own thinking, when in fact, what we're teaching is how to be empowered by that thinking, how to utilize that in a way that moves us forward.
So what happened for me when we started talking about what if we started this project with enthusiasm and a positive expectation? It was helpful for me to think, oh, I don't have to do this all myself.
Mhm.
We have the power of God, the power of the infinite to help us create this. We just have to put our enthusiasm in it, know that we're with God, and we don't have to do it alone. And I don't have to learn everything alone. I can do it little by little. And I'm talking about social media stuff. I've never have been really interested in promoting social media. And this would require that for this new venture that Bob wants to do, and I support.
Yeah, well, very, very briefly, I'm going to start doing Zoom classes on YouTube on how to color and how to change coloring in a coloring book into fine art. So the topic is going to be from coloring in a coloring book to fine art. And what I will be able to do in that process is teach people how to exercise their creativity in a way that makes them as good an artist as they want to be. And so, and I've learned this from working with people doing exactly that. And it suddenly occurs to me after 3 years of doing it professionally and getting paid for it, that I actually have a forum for doing something that is really, really exciting. I shared it with Judith and she said, great, another project. And this will,
For me, you do.
right. And this will probably make a lot of money, right? Like the last one. That's right. So, but the first thing that comes up when you think of something like that is the enthusiasm and the excitement. And then the second thing is the to-do list and oh my God. And the enthusiasm in God is the support you need to get through that inherent resistance or the resistance of people that you love saying, really? As opposed to, yes, I can hardly wait to support you with this. So, and I think it was an interesting exchange though, because what we discovered is that we count on each other for enthusiasm more than we count on God, more than we count on source. And so when Judith wasn't enthusiastic, I said, well, I guess God and I will have to carry this. And it didn't take very long after explaining some of the details, which meant Judith didn't have to do everything, that this was something we could do together. But this enthusiasm piece is really, really important, that in God, all things are possible. They may not look like the thing you had in mind to do initially, but they may also form in a way that is even better. The other part of that I really want to share too is that when you have an idea and you're enthusiastic and excited and are looking forward to an extraordinary experience, it is the experience that is important, not necessarily even the outcome. We tend to be so outcome oriented. Is it what will this get us, or what will this do, or will it be a success? Forgetting that we never asked that question when we were born. You know, what we do is we live a process and we expect wonderful events to materialize, not realizing that the real life that we're living is in the process. And that takes me to, again, living extraordinary life means living in the life of process rather than how close are we to our destination? I guess I'll take another nap. And when we get there, wake me up. And the process is we need to be awake during the process rather than wake up when the event has finally occurred the way we think it should occur, as if somehow magic happens when your eyes are closed.
Well, and I would like to say that Bob has been doing this for 3 years in a paid position where he helps people in great mental distress, helps them do this kind of artwork. And it's a way of getting them interactive with their conversation with him. But also, they've been so impressed with what they've been able to learn how to do. So he has seen this work for people, and he enjoys showing them how to do this. So I think it's a great project, really, a great idea.
If I can help people that are psychotic, maybe I could help people that aren't.
Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. So I would like to go through these steps, and
Yeah,
I know many of
let's
you
do
have
that.
heard them many times, but you know what? Are you using them? This is what I have to ask myself that question too. I know it, but am I using it? So the first step is in recognizing that the power is God's power that you're using, that you're applying here. And so that's called the recognition step. I recognize that the power is God's.
And if you have God as a person, you may want to say that doesn't necessarily stack up to what is necessary for a God. So I call God my divine intelligent heart. And I call it my divine intelligent heart because I also think that when we talk about intelligence, we often omit heart. And when we talk about heart, we often omit intelligence. So seeing this God or this intelligence as a loving kindness in the universe that is infinite in its knowing, that's really, wow, I got that kind of a partner. and I am part of that rather than it's out there and I can connect to it.
Well, that's the second step.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that.
But we often call it infinite intelligence because we come up with names other than God because it's hard to think of the word God without seeing a picture of a man with long white hair in the sky. And
Why white hair? Why not bald?
well, because he's very old.
Okay.
It's a he. So infinite intelligence can get you out of that, or whatever name you like to use. But know that there's a power greater than you are that you can use, and you're using it with this affirmative statement. So the second step is a unification, which is saying, I am one with that power. It's not God here and me here. It's no, it's an energy that created us and continues to create us and is part of us. So that empowers you then with your next statement, which is your declaration. You're declaring
So
what it is.
I want to go back to
Okay,
to
the
to,
unification.
to unification. The best example that I've had in my life is getting on a motorcycle and becoming one with the motorcycle, even though it's something that isn't me. When we're together and we realize that one cannot exist without the other. The motorcycle is not a motorcycle; it's a piece of machinery until you get on it. And I'm not able to move fast and change directions on my own the way I can on a motorcycle. So we unify, we become one. And what happens when that oneness is you don't say, I'm going to steer to the left. You simply move your eyes to the left and the bike goes that way. And you don't say, I want to go faster. Your hand accelerates, the gears get shifted, and everything works perfectly. And you start smiling because you're unified. I find the same thing with my art. Many of you will have found that in meditation, that you become connected. You recognize the connection that is infinite. And when that happens, there is a kind of magic in that when I say that, something powerful happens that you can't explain, but you know is real.
By the way, the art in our background is one of Bob's pieces of art that he created while we're talking about it. But I want to go back to the declaration
Yeah.
state. That is where you state what it is you would like to experience or become or have in a present tense as if you already have it. In other words, you claim it. Um, and uh, with the house that I wanted, this is my house. I knew I didn't have the papers for it yet, but this is my house. This is the house. And so that's what you do. You declare what you want as if you already have it.
Right. You affirm its presence in your life. You don't affirm wanting or longing.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
very often our prayers are prayers of longing or
Yeah,
please,
then you just keep
I
longing for
want
it.
this. And so we have an in-depth lesson on longing and wanting as opposed to it's mine, I claim it. How does that feel? How does it feel to have that relationship with whatever it is realized? Now, what are you going to do? And yeah,
In the case of the house, I kept saying to the realtor would call me when I knew we couldn't get it yet, and he would call me and say, "Oh, somebody's putting in a bid. You better go." And I said, "Well, something about it's my house, but we're not ready yet." And he said, "I have news for you, young lady. This is not your house until you have a signed contract." And I just kept calling it my house and irritating him. But at any rate, it was my house within a few months. But so you declare this and you affirm it. And those are the only three steps that are in our, what we call our textbook, The Science of Mind, that was written by our founder, Ernest Holmes. He just talks about those three steps. So that's all that's necessary: the recognition, unification, and declaration. We have added two more steps to it just because people do this and it kind of wraps it up. The fourth one is gratitude, saying thanks, thank you, it's already done. And the last one is release. And so then you release it and quit worrying about it or thinking about it, or you just let it go. And it's doing its work out in the universe. Now we have a way that we teach our children how to do this, because my son was very sick at 4 years of age when we were doing this. And his Sunday school teacher asked me, "Well, have you taught him how to do spiritual mind treatment. I said, no, he's too young. He's 4 years old. He said, he's not too young. And this is the way that they did it. So we taught him. Uh, it, they would say, they'd use the hand. And it would start with God is, I am, I want, thanks, over and out. It was so simple, I can remember that. God is, I am, I want, thanks, over and out.
The two parts that we added are the gratitude is an affirmation that it's done. At the
Right,
same,
it's done.
and that's
Thank you.
and that's really, really important.
And you can't really accept something until you
Right.
give
And we
thanks for it.
started doing that, I think, because in part what would happen is people would say, this is what's true for me. And then immediately following this affirmation of truth, they would say, God, but I wonder if it's really going to happen. And they would
Isn't this wishful thinking?
start backtracking and saying, yeah, really. So that added gratitude is, yes, things work for me. And by over and out means I actually am going to stop my prayer and stay away from obsessing. Because what we often will do is maybe I need to say it better or louder, or I need to use thee and thou, so that the words are right and God will get it in the right language. Because I read that, it's crazy how we have to have a prayerful state rather than that we're in the state that we're in, and that's the state that's best for us to be in to do whatever we're going to do. There's also one other thing that God
It's
introduced
often
along
useful.
that God introduced that I found was really very helpful. I would sometimes say affirm what I wanted, but I would also be saying, but do I deserve it? Like, how could this happen? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, okay. And I would not say I was grateful. I would say, okay. And so there's sort of a big question mark. So we call it the argumentative state. And
Step.
yeah. And you need to argue in favor of it. Why not me? And I remember many years ago when I was struggling and I wanted a new car, and I thought, I don't deserve a new car. I mean, really. And it just turned out that we lived near some gangsters. They were true gangsters. And the gangster drove up with his brand new car, as a new Lincoln. And I thought, if a gangster can have a car, I think I could have a car. I don't have to get it the way gangsters get it, but I mean, it isn't about goodness. It's about financing. It's about, it was not about deserving. And so it was important to argue in favor of, if you haven't got an argument in favor of the objection, then why do you think that the objection isn't going to win? And then there's one other.
But I want to
Go ahead.
give an example of that. When we were courting, Bob took me on his motorcycle, of course, and we had a wonderful time driving to the Keys. I just loved it. But as I stepped off one time, I wasn't accustomed to sitting on the back of a motorcycle. I burned my calf on the pipe, and if you've ever done that, it burns like a son of a gun.
Using nice words. That's Sunday, right?
I had my minister heal a burned hand when I had burned it grabbing an iron skillet by mistake right out of the oven. And he had done a treatment for me, or affirmative prayer, and the pain all went away. So I knew this can happen. So, and I had told Bob about many miraculous results, seemingly miraculous. We just call them demonstrations that had happened. And so I knew he knew I knew how to do this. So my calf was really burning, and I did a treatment, and it was still really burning. And oh no. And so I used what we call the denial step.
Mm.
Yeah. And so what you do is you come up with a denial that you really believe. And my denial step was, God cannot be in pain.
Mm.
Therefore, I'm not in pain. And then the pain all went away. And so I got my demonstration. Sometimes you need to stick a denial step in there.
Mhm.
If you're not quite believing what you're saying, you put a denial step as this is what's not possible. Therefore, I can affirm this.
That reminds me too of another step that I introduced years ago. It was from a movie we saw that I was so struck with this word that it kept getting used every time the actor was in a bad situation and confronted. People would say, "You're going to have to do that," and he would say, "I will do it." And then the question would be, "How?" And the great word was, it's a mystery. And I love that. So I would say, I affirm that I have $1 million and I don't have to know how. How is a mystery. And I can allow mystery, but I can't allow an open space for I don't know what to say next. And so somehow that, and it was really powerful.
You don't know how. It's a mystery.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's good.
And I don't have to know how. That's the part of the teaching that is so powerful, is that you don't have to know how. You simply have to affirm and live in the affirmation, not in the, now that I've affirmed that I'm going to undo it, I'm going to worry myself into hoping that it happens. Or worse than that, what we often do is we say, God, please do this for me, but let me set the table. And now that I've
They
set,
give you a timetable.
yeah, and let me set the table. Now let me also get the chicken. I'll go buy it. I don't expect you to get it. And I'll cook it. You don't have to cook it. And then we start eating it and think God didn't do a damn thing. Well, actually, you didn't give God a chance, because it's very possible that the God in you would have had a phone call, would say, hey, what are you doing today? I'm going to buy lunch. And the chicken would have been served to you. So what we tend to do is we tend to, and I think we do it in part because we don't really trust that there is a divine intelligence. So we try to do a divine job for God, just in case. Because what we really don't want to find out is not that we can't have what we want. We don't want to find out there's no God. And so the undoing, I think, often is not the undoing of the affirmation, it's the undoing of the fear that there really is nothing out there. And there's lots of people that will tell you that that's true, that there's nothing out there. And so I think we often have a more fragile understanding or connection with God than we do with what we want. And so when we go to, if you went to the store and they said, we may or may not have what you want, every time you went there, you'd start not going to the store anymore. And so we get scared. And the biggest fear we have is that we really are alone. And the truth is, we're not alone. And the truth is, if we listened long enough and we listened with enough openness, we would hear that we're not alone. But we often say, I don't want to be alone. I'll talk until I'm not, as opposed to I will listen until I hear that still small voice.
Wow, we have really talked. So we need to close now, but I just want to say that just in our reviewing all of these steps and what would it take for me to get enthusiastic about this new project, I realize I need to include the power of God, the power of the unknown, the power that's a power greater than I am, that I can use.
Right.
And I can become enthusiastic that way.
And
I can learn what I need to learn.
And if you know a social media person who has lots and lots of skills that wants to work for almost nothing, uh, or share in the extraordinary profits that are possibly going to come, that are definitely going to come, then let us know. So
Bob has in mind to do this. We have so many places for seniors in our area, and so for seniors with memory issues, for just senior homes, that
well,
this could be an offering.
the memory thing
for
alone
them.
is wonderful, because I can teach them the same thing every week. Okay,
Okay.
that probably wasn't funny.
Okay.
It was,
Okay, so it's time for us to close now, but we can't close without a screen share there to remind people that we do appreciate and survive on donations, and
we actually
what happened to
we
that?
really
Yeah.
do need your support. Yeah.
And we are Corporation Centers for Spiritual Living of the Palm Beaches, and this is our website,
Yeah.
cslpalmbeaches.org.
We
And
have to pay
click
for
on-
insurance, we have to pay for Zoom, there's a lot of it, actually surprising expenses that go with running it and donate to the home office. And so there is a lot that we're not just asking so you can give us money so we can have money for lunch or dinner.
to pay for the
Yeah,
expenses.
it really is a service and we really do appreciate it. But also when you donate to us, you're donating to the work we can do for people that often don't know anything about us and benefit from the treatment and prayer work that we do.
Indeed. And we're happy to do that. Please call us
Yeah.
if you need prayer treatment. We're happy to do that. So, and you can get our phone number on the website, ways to donate. Home, just the home. So let's say the affirmation, because we believe as you give, you do receive. Actually, your giving is a way of opening up circulation of what you're giving. So if you give money, you receive more money. So let's say my investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. So it is.
And we'll stop the share and we'll end the Zoom
And the recording,
and recording.
not that one, that one.